Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
I can hear you now.
Oh, now I can hear
You
you.
hear us?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Perfect.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We have Tom Lasker and Barry Fairwood, Bruce LaRoche in attendance in person, and Nelverio is on Zoom. So here we have the commission in attendance. So that's good enough. We have staff, Ray and Lisa, our secretary. All right. Approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written. I have not seen anything that.
Yeah, I read them yesterday.
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved by Tom, seconded Barry. All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minds, nay. Abstentions. Okay. Approval of minutes done.
Okay, I've got a whole bunch of items to go through and then a couple of tack-ons as well. So let's start it with the existing agenda. StanChem fire line. Several months ago, StanChem Centec consulting firm reached out to us and was looking at some mechanism for StanChem to replace their fire lines. Their existing fire line is that they use pumps and take right out of the Mattabesett River. That is not convenient for them. It's not consistent with them in operation. So it's one of the things that they would like to retire. So what happened is that when they approached us, they want to put in a 12-inch line off of our 12-inch. And I'm extremely concerned that doing that would really impair us in terms of pressure, because up in the upper portion, Ice Pond, Brittany Lane, Brittany Path, actually in that area by Decormier proposals, we have a pressure gradient there is 40 PSI. So if they had a 12-inch line, they'd draw on it, they would, make a negative pressure on that. So that wasn't convenient. However, I suggested that maybe Cromwell, because Cromwell mentioned this a while back, Fire District, that they would like some additional interconnections with us. So they were looking at an interconnection that they were actually asking the state to help them with finance, would be the connection over by Division Street. That comes off of the big behind Walmart, would cross the river and go up Division Street and actually provide water to us potentially and Middletown. However, that was their primary, but we met with them. We met with StanChem, and we met with the consultant for StanChem. And I made a suggestion that basically what we could do is Cromwell, if they connected over by the bridge over Berlin Street, they would be able, which is a 12-inch line coming in from Cromwell, they could be able to tap in and put the line across the street along the bridge, and then they would be able to tap it in as a fire line and then replace their fire pumps. It would have an added advantage to us as well, because we would have a shutoff valve and potentially could use their water from either direction. They would put in a meter pit just like they have over on 372. Hey, Liam.
Okay.
You want to make sure Liam gets credit for?
Yeah. In attendance, Liam just came in, so now he's here.
Jack's usually wait for everybody else 5 minutes.
Man.
Well, it's 7 o'clock,
Yeah,
hey,
I'm telling you.
the train leaves. I don't know who person did. Person. Anyway, so if we just finished 4.1, a fire line for StanChem, but basically, so what Cromwell did, which is kind of great, they're going to measure, they're going to modify their engineering report to the State Health Department to include an additional meter pit on Berlin Street, which would be excellent for us. So, and StanChem's looking at this too as a positive, because the money they would have spent for putting in a 12-inch line for 600 something feet, they can put in and offset the cost for this connection, and we get a benefit of another connection. So that's a really good win-win-win condition. 4
They buy the water from Cromwell.
We buy the water from Cromwell now anyway, but what would happen is that the Cromwell meter would be on all the time. And we would not be getting water from them all the time because we've only purchased it seasonally.
Hmm.
So, but however, they would tap off, being Stanchem would tap off before that. And so that line would be activated all the time for them. And there's enough pressure gradient there so that it would be very good for the fire protection. Yeah, not a problem. So 4.2, RFP bid opening. This is the bid opening to evaluate our system. Basically, the auditors had indicated to us that they would like to have an evaluation of our system. We went out to bid. We only had one bidder. It was DPC Engineering, and it was $122,000. I needed to talk to Kevin, our finance director, and we're not sure exactly how we're going to structure it. It's a little bit more than we originally anticipated. We're going to go back and see if we can kind of whittle down the cost of that. We still need that because we would like to provide it to the auditors, and we need it as a basis for potential use down the road. That's 4.2. 4.3, the RFP for the district study. You recall the town council approved us to go to a study. I put the notice out and the bid proposal. There were actually two bidders. DPC was one of the bidders, and then Haley Ward. Haley Ward's proposal was the least, a little under 120,000. However, the town sort of wanted to track on this gingerly because the two districts had indicated they did not want to participate. So we were concerned with that. As a result of that, basically, we at one of the earlier meetings with Haley Ward, who also has a subcontractor, Reptilis, who does work in the arena of financial analysis, basically indicated that for $1,500, which we already put out, they would come back to us and give us an indication of what they can have, what they can get without going to either utility in what's out there. So, and then we would decide whether we want to move forward on that.
How
And-
beneficial is that going to be to us going forward?
Well, it would be because if they can tell us that there's enough data that exists out there that basically that they could put something together, that would make sense. Because like the financial statements are annually submitted by each district. We could do some financial analysis, and then whatever they do for the state health department requirements and other agencies, they would get some of that information together, water supply plans and whatever. So they might be able to structure something that's valid. No, it doesn't mean we're gonna accept it. We would evaluate it, and then there's still an issue of financing. So we'll probably have to go back to the town council and say, hey, do you still want to do this? This is the issue. Because we don't want to spend $120,000 knowing that we can't get anything inclusive out of it. That's the big issue.
If all three participated, what do you guesstimate that it might? If everybody played nice in the sandbox?
If they played nice in the sandbox, $30,000 a piece, it would be a done deal, and all three systems would be a pretty good evaluation. Reptilis has a very good history, and apparently our attorney has used them for Regional Water Authority, MDC, and quite a few other utilities throughout the entire country. So they have a very good background and very supportive. But we'll see. It's too early to see at this point in time what we're going to do. The Baxter Avenue meter status. This has turned out to be a lot worse than I thought originally, because the Baxter Avenue meter is not actually valid for under all conditions. Well, so and most people slipped up. This Wright Pierce, who did the engineering consultant work here, did a very nice job. Indicated that the Palmer Bolus flume is an insert, which is a little bit different than a flume that's built in place, and so it has a different dynamics. So we're looking at potentially putting in a new meter there with some additional modifications to the actual meter pit in order to make it conducive and maybe a measure so that it would be measurable and also billable. So that the bottom line is that this meter could be used for billing purposes in the future, because this would capture the I&I coming from Kensington.
How much money?
30 grand, 30 to 35 grand. So
For
it's
this,
a pretty
for the
reasonable.
Baxter meter?
for the Baxter meter complete with the recorder and the new meter and the revision or upgrade.
And this is a new one with, it's delayed, unlike the other ones which you're fine.
This would be the state of the art meter with a better meter.
Corrected
Yeah,
and usable and
yeah.
accurate.
The other one was okay, but it wasn't meant to be located where it was. Apparently, several people, including 3 that we had for calibrations, really didn't understand that the actual location of the metering point had to be 1 foot back into the pipe. So the pipe coming in, you have to put it back 1 foot, pour out an 8-inch hole, and then that's where the transducer has to be located. And unfortunately, it was located ahead.
So basically it was mismounted.
It was dislocated, yeah.
So could we use it in another place?
I don't know if we would want to use it in another place. We only have one other Palmer-Bolus flume, and that's over on Berlin Street, and that's an 8-inch line, and that seems to be okay. It's a smaller line, so it's not a problem. I don't think that particular meter would be, it cost us about $5 grand originally, so I don't really think it's salvageable, so personally. But for the money, it seems to me like this is the route to go. They're still collecting data, and it still shows that there's still some substantial I&I coming in that direction.
So who would be, do we have somebody for contractual purposes to? do
No,
the
not
replacement?
yet. That would be the next step. We just met with them this afternoon, so this will be something else we have to put together. 4.5, policy reimbursement for canceling visits. Well, this came up. I have to share it with you. I don't necessarily agree with it, but anyway, an individual who had a meeting time and a date. If you recall, Connecticut Water Company does this a service as well. They actually set up work orders, and basically what they do is they send it out to the staff then follow up, and then they make arrangements with. So apparently, and I don't know how this happened, but one of the work orders we had somehow got blown off. Individual kept waiting. And the second time it happened, he actually gave me a call, and I was able to get somebody out there that moment. So then he pulled the kind of an interesting condition. When he went to PURA, Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, which has no responsibility,
Authority over us directly.
no responsibility of authority over us, and petitioned them so that he could get reimbursed for his time. So my suggestion is that there should be no policy for reimbursement of time, period. And that's what I would like you to take a vote and unless you debate it and you want to have it approved, but I would not want to.
Policies meaning what?
The policy is that if somebody, we do water and sewer, so we try to keep our appointments, but however, if a sewer issue comes up, it takes precedence. And basically, if we end up blowing off a person for an hour or two or whatever, that's that's our oversight. But the question comes up: do you want to pay the individual? And of course, the other question is, what would you want to pay for?
Work done.
I've never heard of
What's that?
Comcast.
No,
Yeah,
If they're late, they're late.
yeah. No, you don't, you never get reimbursed.
No, I've never heard it either. So,
okay.
but I'm raising it only because it got raised. Isn't this? I want to run it by you.
I had a plumber come to my house. Was he late? Yeah.
Have you
Did I
established
get
a
paid for
policy?
being late at home?
No, I haven't. This would be established a policy. If you disagree with any kind of reimbursement, that's the policy.
I
You see
made
what
a
I'm saying?
motion and disagree. I second it.
Okay.
We don't have a late in the policy.
Okay.
All in favor?
I have to bring
Aye.
up these
Aye.
points. That's all. Thank you, Al.
You got Al. All
Okay.
right,
Mattabesset Building.
unanimous.
Yeah. Mr. Garcia.
Yeah, he's got a nice emblem there. Mattabesset Billing, 4.6. We sent out a billing already to both utilities districts, Kensington and Worthington, in mid-May. To date, no response. Worthington has asked us by their chairperson, Stosh Pager, some questioning about our POs and payments on the Berlin pump station, which I don't understand personally. but nonetheless, I responded back, and I'm not sure I understand his questioning because the bill was paid. The grinders there, he was questioning, were installed, and the company that installed them was paid, so I'm not really sure I understand what the issue here is. Anyway, so I responded back, and we're obligated to pay Madam Bassett. We're going to be paying Madam Bassett by wire and transfer on July 3rd, $2.4 million.
That's how much we're gonna owe them.
What year was that for? Last year?
That's for 2022.
What, the 2.4
Yes.
last year?
Well, it's calendar year. That's how they do it.
Last calendar year due as of this July.
So this year's would be paid. So,
And the meter that they put down at the end of the 60-inch is consistently showing 2 to 3% higher than last year. And
Oh,
this
he's
was,
talking about the Madam Bassett.
I'm talking about this bill that gets generated right here, the 2.4 million. Okay, I thought it was 2. Now it's 2.4. You can count on it's going to be more than that next
Oh,
year.
yeah.
At
About
least
two-
3%.
I think
And
closer
it's a
to
dry year.
2.7 probably.
Well, I have to speak in terms of conservative because I don't want Reagan hits.
Ray or Art.
Both.
You're saying Ray is the wrong person.
Do you have a breakdown as to who owes what on that 2.4?
I do. Roughly speaking, this includes the repayment bills for two deep loans. So Kensington is about $1 million. I'm rounding them out. And Worthington is about $411,000. Also, Worthington has a $115,000 water bill that just came in. They made a mistake. They didn't include our updated, what do you call
Rates.
it? The rates. So I revised the rates. They originally asked for like 170. That was about, $8,000 or $9,000 less. So 115,000 is coming from there.
Worthington is 115.
115 for the water. For the Madam Bassett bill, it's about 411,000. So those are, if we don't get them by July 1st, then we have to tack on a 1.5% interest on that. So
Yeah,
okay.
4.7.
4.7. Okay, I copied you on this. Is the letter that was sent anonymously to the governor, Secretary of State, the Commissioner of Health, and the Pura chairperson. This is interesting because they're not going to do anything about it, frankly, because I've been in government long enough, so I know that this isn't going to happen. There's nothing going to be evaluated here. The only interesting part about it is Pura now is, and I know the chairperson, Jack Kowski, pretty well, because he used to be a former legislature over in Beacon Falls. And basically, he, as vice chair now, he'd indicated to me that potentially Pura may look into the case and may end up evaluating all three utilities independently anyway. So this would
Would
be
that be an
interesting.
audit?
It might be a financial audit because they've been known to do this. And they're not sure the mechanism. They're having their attorney evaluate it. I did speak to him, and basically he says that he's going to have his attorneys figure out if there's a way that the town can petition them to evaluate all three systems. And then they would have to be
A
obligated.
forensic audit,
Yeah, more detailed audit.
right? That's what I'm pushing for.
So it's kind of going to backfire personally. The comments about mismanagement and so forth, I think are ridiculous, but anyway.
Well, you
it is
keep
what it
bringing
is.
up old contracts that kill us, but benefit them.
Yeah, that's the other issue. Now, 4.8. Now, 4.8 sort of came out of the woodwork. We are obligated every year to provide DEEP with diversion permit requirements. How much gallons of water go through our Elton Road, and any flow going into Worthington. We're co-applicants for that. Somehow or other, one of the individuals there, nice person that's just started with them, Melissa Mostowski, she basically evaluated the water supply plan and noticed, and this is an interesting situation because it's an oversight. New Britain, we don't have a registered diversion permit for New Britain. And I asked him, I said, well, how could that be? I said, we've been purchasing water from them since 1967. Somehow or other,
This was
it's
brought up
slipped
a few
through the
years
cracks. Can you imagine that? So it's never been brought up.
It has, and it's not that long ago. I'm not talking more than 5 to 6
No.
years.
No.
I
It's not
contacted,
registered. It's not registered. They just gave me
I
a registration.
contacted personally Jack McManus, who was
It's not
involved
registered.
in the first time.
I have looked up and down. It's not registered. It's not registered by E DEP.
He's the one that gave me a letter from Florida. He's up here right now, but he's the one that said it was grandfathered in.
No. In fact,
This
they
is from
just,
Jack, and he
they-
was the manager. back
I
then.
looked all over the place. I couldn't find
You
it.
have something that says that?
It was an email, answering an email or a text back in that day, and that was a bunch of years.
No, Morgan
Years.
Seeley did an excellent job in one of those responses back to DEEP and basically outlined, and this, you'll find this interesting as well. He was doing evaluations of all our well fields, in which was an interesting situation because, and in it was all the registered systems. And so you're going to find this interesting because the fact of the matter is the only one was missing is New Britain. He had the well field for Woodlawn. Woodlawn
Yeah.
has a registration for almost 0.72 MGD. The Bicentennial well, Bacon well, as it's often referred to, is also for 750,000 gallons per day. And then Morgan also pointed out that the Woodlawn well is actually, it has the capacity of 1 million gallons per day. So we're sitting on a lot of water, but the quality of the water isn't great. We'd have to have it treated. And so the interesting part about it, and then I found additional information, it shows that in the purchase of the Bicentennial well field, the town purchased, and it's not clear if it's town, rural and water control, purchased 150 acres for protection. So that 150 acres goes with the well field. And that well field is pretty large to begin with also. So we're sitting on a lot of water. So I can see why we'd be interested, or other utilities would be interested in this. And then
See,
there's
this how I do remember, and I have a good memory. I remember that conversation occurring
with,
with Jack.
it's
it was-
it's not registered. I'm just
I
telling you,
understand
it's
what
not
you're
on
saying,
any,
it's not
it's not on
registered.
any list. It's not on any.
I am saying it happened. It might not be recorded, but I know this subject matter came
Oh,
up.
I'm sure it
I made
came up.
an inquiry to Jack McManus, who was involved in that diversion permit. I was answered by him that it was a grandfathered in. The recording
Well,
of
it is grandfathered, but it still has to be registered. It wasn't registered.
Okay, so when I brought it up and answered it here to this commission, then whoever from here or through him didn't get it registered, then it needs to be done now, but
It's
I
already
knew
done.
it was answered.
They did that for us. They've already
But I know
registered.
it was answered
Yeah,
and it was
well,
grandfathered.
Is it registered now?
it is registered now.
Okay.
So that's
Okay,
the bottom
End
line.
of September.
Then we
Thank
can
you.
drop this up.
But it wasn't
But why
before.
is it up here?
It wasn't before, and it wasn't by anyone or any place. That was, and I looked pretty extensively. Now, there is a downside to this, unfortunately. There always is. Well, no, actually, there's another diversion permit requirement because the Serio Drive has a meter and a meter pit that goes one way. It goes from us to Kensington Fire District. And New Britain uses this as a subtraction for our supply. So any water that it proceeds from our side, being the south side, basically going north to Kensington, gets subtracted out to the New Britain billing. So we don't get billed for that because that goes to Kensington and they get billed. But the interesting part about it is this one does not have a diversion permit. And I looked up and down and I couldn't find it. So that's going to be another issue. So we may have to have another co-application for a diversion permit with them. So it's going to be another headache and a cost, a little bit of a cost.
Move to 4.9.
4.9, 4.9.
Sounds like you're gonna add a few items on.
Yes,
to it.
I'm going to
What
ask
my next
about
one?
4 more items here real
Okay,
quickly.
what's the subject matter?
Rain barrel. Rain barrel.
Rain barrels.
We
Okay,
brought this up a
anybody-
while back.
Anybody want to nominate
Oh, yeah, make a motion to put on
Motion.
one.
to add that to the agenda?
Make a motion to add 4.9 rain barrels. Seconded.
Okay, first by Tom Laska, second by Barry Fairwood. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This-
Contrary minds, Nagy. Okay.
This came up once before. Connecticut Water Company has a program where they actually provide rain barrels. They offset the cost. You can get it really cheap from this one provider. It's like by $82. And what they do is they provide a $10 credit. It appears to me it's a one-time credit, $10. And so
Who
what
is this?
happened?
Connecticut Water?
Connecticut Water Company does that. They have a policy position with them. How this came up once before us a while back, maybe a year or two. But Millie Hemming, which is a new individual down at the high school, brought this up because they ended up getting I forgot, I'm not sure who purchased it from, somebody purchased it for them in the high school for a rain barrel. She works in an area there where they do the agricultural stuff. And so I've been communicating with her, and she wanted to know whether this was still an active program. I personally don't see the need for it. I haven't had many requests. I've only had one request in the last 3 years.
I think DEP says no. Any kind of collection of any water. From
Oh,
barrels.
I don't know. Last one I have here was, about a year ago, June 16, 2022. Lo and behold, I can't believe it. It's Mike Mendoza's sister asking for a $10 credit for a rain barrel. But so I'm bringing this up again. I don't know if you want to have a program with this. If not, I would say that you want to vote and put it on hold, or maybe at some other future time, whatever. I really don't know what you want to do with it at this point in time. I don't see
There
it.
was an application for it, or did she have one?
Well,
Yeah.
she got one, but she was asking about whether she
It's a credit.
she should have one as so something at the high school to tell people that this is one way that a program could be going through. I personally,
We should check with EPAB.
I personally don't think there's a high demand for it personally, but then that's not my, you could just table it and say, we'll
That's
pick
what I
it
was
up at
just
another
gonna
time.
say. I think we should
But-
table it.
Can't be between customer. and-
Yeah, but no, the
Why
only,
are we,
the only point is giving them the $10 credit. See,
we'll let Connecticut Water give them the $10 credit.
no, it would come out of us. Connecticut Water Company only handles our books, but they don't give you the credit.
I think it's tabled.
Table.
Okay. I'd make a motion that you table it. Motion to table.
Motion to
Table.
table.
Second. Okay.
For a second. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minds, nay.
Okay, 410. This just recently came in, and we're gonna have to talk to the health department. They sent us a potential violation notice on cross connections. One of the problems is this has been a problem for quite a few.
Add that
Yes,
item.
at 4.10, I'm sorry. The cross connection violations,
Ross,
cross connection violations.
Press go and make motion to.
I make a
add-
motion.
add a cross connection violation report.
second it.
Tom. That's great.
These violations haven't been issued at this point in time, but there's a potential. Here's the point. We need to respond back by July 26th, but this issue has come up several times in the past. We have businesses, for instance, I'll give you an example. On the Berlin Turnpike there, the Citgo over in front of Home Depot, they basically closed up their irrigation system. So we can't inspect it, and we're not going to ask them to put it online so we could do the inspection. So basically, that's part of the problem. So we have several businesses that basically are closed and basically do not open. So that's one of the things that we have to discuss with the health department. In the past, there hasn't been a problem. We have to explain it, tell them. They seem to think that you can go back in there in the business even when it's closed, that you'd be able to test it. That's not going to happen. Some of
Which is
these
correct.
some businesses are closed and we're not going to ask them. And sometimes we don't even know who owns it, to tell you the truth. So, yeah, well, if you go through an ownership change or something like that, then we're up in the woods for a while. And yeah, so we're going to see if we can work this out. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that that's a.
How many instances is there of this
Well,
violation?
as long as there's one, that's the important part. Then it is technically a violation. And then now I have 4.11.
Okay.
This is a little bit interesting.
Semi-introduction, then we'll entertain.
This is a
Internet, entertain a motion for 4.11, which is.
reimbursement for pool filling.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Al.
Al's got it.
He must have.
This
Thank
is-
you.
This, he responded.
Yeah, I raise this as being a little bit unique, only because the fact of the matter is, typically, we obviously from past history have not allowed people to get any kind of reimbursements or any kind of credits if the water goes down the sewer. This one woman called me and basically said that her, I guess they were putting in a new liner, so they dumped the 15,000 gallons out of their pool. And when they dumped the 15,000 gallons, she calls up and says, well, geez, can I get some kind of credit for it? Because it didn't go down the sewer, obviously. So my question to you is, and I know Connecticut Water Company is pretty, I guess liberal is probably the word to use, liberal about this. They give like a nominal $50 or $75 or something like that, just to the homeowner, just for a courtesy
filling.
fee. And I don't know if we want to do something like that or not. There's no way I'm going to start measuring pool. I mean,
It's
taking
gonna
up,
set a precedent.
oh, I know, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, but why? Okay. She dumped the water in the ground.
She dumped the water in the ground only because then she had to refill the pool because the pool liner went. So they would replace the pool liner.
Tell her to call the fire department, see if their truck come up. Fill it.
They,
That's a
they,
neighborly thing.
you have a commercial,
No, because it fill it from our hydrant. We don't want that.
No. the
Commercial
tanker- the
hydrant.
tanker truck.
Commercial tankers are like $600 for 5,000 gallons. I've looked into this before.
that there are
Because-
pool filler, that's what I was just gonna say, there are companies that
Oh, yeah, yeah.
will fill your
there's no-
pool, period.
The filling it is not a problem. She's looking for some kind of credit because when she refilled the pool, she knows she's got to pay for the water, but the water that was put back into the pool, not into the ground.
Into the sewer.
Oh,
system.
you want to
Yeah.
give her credit for the sewer fee?
Yes.
Is that-
that's
that's
it.
your
Looking
goal?
for
Yeah.
the sewer fee credit.
And in my mind's eye, we could give her a $50 credit or something like that, just to show some kind of courtesy or some kind of,
Yeah, you can give a flat fee. I would.
that's what I would say, a flat fee rather than try to calculate something.
Because it, depending on the size of the pool,
Yeah, I don't want to.
take about 5,500 gallons
Yeah,
for.
and I don't want to start doing all the
24 round.
calculations to try to figure out how to do
What's the
that.
pool water? That'd be expensive, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not
Probably
cheap.
for $50, $100.
Well, she doesn't know what we would give her. You can give her anything you want, but I'm
Hey,
just
Ray,
saying.
how did she fill the pool?
She filled it from our system, so
You
she's gonna
sure?
get charged for the water and sewer,
You sure she filled it from the system?
according to what she says. I mean, I wasn't there, Al, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, if she hired a company to bring the water in, then she never purchased it, right? So it
Oh,
doesn't
no,
matter.
no,
if it
no,
goes.
she didn't do that. No, and actually, I try to dissuade people to do that because the thing is, $600 a pop for 5,000 gallons is a lot of money for a short.
Yep.
It only takes us for even a 15,000 gallon pool, probably about $150 according to our fees, even if you include the water and sewer fee. So my question is, and this is kind of a bottom line question is that, do you want to just give a nominal $50 as a courtesy fee and a one-time thing, or just forget it? I mean, it's up to you. I'm just raising this
And
because,
this is only
this is-
applicable towards the few,
Yeah, but we only gave credit to people who had water leaks.
typically, yes, that's
you know,
correct.
and, we
This was
created-
why this was a little unique, because she actually
It was a
knew
water
she's
leak, it
gonna
was
be
caused.
discharging it out to the ground and it wasn't gonna go back to the
But the
sewer.
reason we give them the rebate is because we know that it didn't get into the sewer system, so it didn't get paid twice. So if you're thinking on those same lines,
this is also not getting paid twice.
yeah, that's right. So a nominal fee of $50 doesn't seem like a whole lot of money. And it gets us off the hook. Plus, when Ray answers these phone calls, he can deal with it and not be bothered with it, as long as that address maybe once every 10 years or something.
Yeah, I'd say a one-time fee.
It's a one-time fee.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we propose a one-time fee of $50 for the.
One-time fee per resident? I mean, per, how, like,
Per event, per home,
Per event.
per home.
home.
I second.
She can't do this every year, Al, that's
Well,
basically.
yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be practical. I mean, I think every 5 years or whatever the lifespan of a liner is, when you have to replace it, I think it warrants them coming and asking for the reimbursement. I mean, so it's got to be like once every 8 years, or whatever the typical service life of a liner is. I
think
think,
you're making it more complicated, yeah.
Taking care of a line of the last year, 10, 12 years. without a
Yeah.
problem.
Okay, so what did I just hear? You want to make it
Yeah.
once every 10 years or
I'm
something?
good with, yeah, once every 10 years at least, yeah, something like that, maybe.
You gotta make the
I
motion.
probably
Al.
won't carry it through anyway.
Yeah,
yeah.
motion.
Al, you'll have to remember that in the 10th year, actually.
Motion on the floor, it's gonna be modified, or is it gonna be just removed and then reinstalled?
That's up to the guy who said it.
Yeah, Tom's the one that first initiated it to be a nominal fee of $50, and now it was seconded by Barry, but now we have a different motion. You amending
Well,
it, Al, to
it's a
do.
slight modification. It's a time frame one.
It's a
Yeah.
time frame,
Just adding a
So-
time frame to it.
What is the time frame?
10 years.
Okay. Agreeable, Barry?
No,
No,
no, one time.
one time. Okay, what do we hear? So we have 4 people here, so how's it gonna go?
You have 4 here and 1 there.
I don't vote.
No, one,
Well, she
Here.
can't vote.
he does on the end.
He
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Al.
Yeah.
Okay, Al, the question is, it's been rejected, so the question is one time or 4? I mean, one time or 10 year? So we have to ask each one. Liam,
Time one,
10 year?
10 year.
Barry,
One time.
one time.
10 year.
Go with 10 year.
10 year it is. Al, yours is 10 years also, right?
10 year, yeah.
Okay, 4-1,
Okay.
10-year period. Thank you. Okay, 412. I'll try to keep you guys apprised on PFAS. PFAS has become extremely
Entertain
complicated.
a motion.
Yeah, motion to
Yeah,
include
discuss
that as
PFAS.
4.12.
4.12 for
PFAS.
update on
PFAS.
PFAS.
Make a motion, we add 4.12 for PFAS.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Contrary minds, nay. Okay.
Okay,
PFAS.
the feds are still out.
This is gonna be
The
on here forever.
the EPA proposal is 4 parts per trillion. Several states have set up standards higher than that, so that's been complicated. Just recently, the federal government has reached some deals with 3M, which they're contributing $10.3 billion. Another company, DuPont, Chemours, they reached a $1.18 billion agreement. This money that they've set aside is for compensation to water utilities. Not much has changed in the PFAS standards. Now, what they have done, just recently, the Weston and Sampson was hired for DEEP to do studies for wastewater analysis. They found extensive wastewater analysis showed that there was PFAS in the wastewater, which is a little bit disconcerting because
Really? When did they find that?
they just came out with this last week, June 15th.
2 months ago, we got a report that says that there was virtually nothing coming.
Well, they did 35 plants. I don't know. I couldn't print off the Madawaska one. I didn't see that. I can show you the whole report if you like.
I'd like a copy.
Yeah, and the compounds are like unbelievable. There's already 34, 35 compounds, and they're all perfluoridated compounds primarily. It's some kind of an acid or some kind of a base to it. So it's becoming really complex. This is one of the things I came from a conference just a couple of weeks ago, which was interesting, is because this was really earth shattering because for the first time, Indiana was measuring it in its water, in its rainwater, which is a little bit disconcerting because once it gets in the rainwater, just like acid rain, it could go all over the place. It could be in anybody's source of supply. So that's the other concern that has. But so that's what PFAS stands, but there hasn't been any motion on the standards at this point in time. It's still a 4 trillion. So
We're getting more and more contamination.
Yeah, but
Yep.
this right here is basically letting them off the hook for everything down the
Well,
road, probably.
this money isn't sufficient.
Are you kidding me? That's gonna be a drop in the bucket.
Oh, yeah, the utilities
yeah.
have looked at this and said 2 to 3 trillion.
Yeah,
is
but
what
that's
they
not
need.
what our government would do. They would sell us down the road and make us pay for it later.
Well, whoever has the contamination case, yeah.
I'd like to bring up something like
On what?
4.13.
Oh, I still have one
Oh,
more.
you got one more.
And then you got 4.14?
Right.
Sorry. All right.
Okay. Before we have the motion,
I
what-
guess-
what's it
What's
about?
on first?
Okay, water priorities. I wanted to share with you,
A vote, a motion and a vote.
Motion to look at these state industry exercise seminar. handout
Water
that we
priorities.
have.
water. State of water industry. That's what this is.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Now, you don't have this, but we can send it to you,
Okay.
but it is basically is this. AWWA every year sends out what they call a state of the water industry for 2023. And the executive summary this year, and this is the only point I'm trying to raise, is I had some copies made of the different things. One of the issues here, and then just sort of bore you with a lot of detail, basically aging infrastructure. Since 2019, 2023, this has been the hottest topic there is. Capital improvements comes up this as a second, long-term supply as a third, and then everything else gets muddled up into priorities afterwards. But and then in concern over contaminant compliance, one of the biggest thing is a big item we just talked about, PFAS. The concern the utilities have is not only treatment, which is very specific, but it also has a waste generated, and waste generation issue is one that's a problem as well. So it's really a holistic issue. So that's the highest concern. So the bottom line on this, I just wanted to raise that the aging infrastructure, just like it is with us, it is with everybody else, and it's the primary issue nationally as well. So that's why I passed out. You can take a look at it with more detail when you have leisure time. That's the only point I wanted to make with that. And then Liam, you want a 4.14?
Yeah. This is in reference, making a motion for 414 for hydrants, specifically for the fire departments in our area.
Okay, motion to.
Motion, you're making a motion?
I made a motion.
Okay, second,
Second.
Barry. All those in favor, aye.
Right.
Contrary minds, nay.
I,
So is this hydrants generic?
This is about part of what's going on. You guys don't know, but I've been working on the communication between the other districts has been extremely poor. So what I'm working with is getting the facts that deal with the water problems, sewer problems, and a way of fixing the problem. I plan on going to the council, and we're going to talk about water for the first time. Second's going to be sewer problems. The third is going to be the fix. And basically what it's going to be is breaking down what the problems are that keep getting ignored. But something came up not too long ago in a conversation that some hydrants are dry. Some hydrants, they turn them on and they're not working. So I don't want to stand in front of the council and say, you know, hey, there's dry hydrants out there. I want to make sure that Berlin Water Commission has got their hydrants all checked and done, because this is going to the chief and the fire marshal. And I want to make sure that we're not caught with our shirts down. But they are hitting hydrants that are dry when they need them.
I have a question. They don't exercise these things? Isn't there like a program that exercises them to check them? Like, I mean, because if a fire truck comes and they need it, there's gotta be water coming out of those things, right?
Well, you're correct on that, Al. Typically, most utilities like ourselves usually have a hydrant flushing system. And during that hydrant flushing process, there's two things that occur. One is you clean out the main of any additional iron or silt that might have developed over the years. And the second part of that is to make the hydrant, make sure it's functional. We've actually found a couple of hydrants we've had to have replaced or upgraded because they're not functional. Either they can't open up difficultly. Most of them have water. This hasn't been the problem. The problem has been trying to open up the hydrants, but we've been able to deal with it.
Isn't about so much, you know, if the thing opens and it snaps, that can't be helped.
Functional.
Right. But at the same time, there has to be that every 5 years you check all the hydrants in our area.
We've been flushing them right along.
Okay,
we-
I
so
thought
you
you
have,
had a program
We do.
established in eight.
okay, so you have that and we don't have any dry hydrants.
Not
in the-
that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Now, we had a couple of hydrants we had to have repaired and replaced.
That's different. That's maintenance. That's we're catching.
Yeah.
The problem here is there's a fire going on and they
Right.
hook up to it. And they're saying that in one particular district, it's a problem.
Right.
And I don't want to have a problem and bringing this up. And then we find that we have a couple that are bad, but if we've gone through ours, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, we already know about Ed Oakley's house blowing up and they went for water.
Oh, so you already remember that.
Christie Lake, yeah.
Well, see, that was the one that was the laughing stock. And when the chief said that that's not uncommon for this district.
Which is the same thing he told me.
And that was Worthington Fire District.
No,
No,
Kensington,
Kensington.
Kensington?
Christian Lane.
So the whole
Christian
thing is that I somewhat put
Pretty much what you said.
inquiry to the fire marshal, which he will make sure that the other districts are in line. But while we're in session here, I wanted it on the record that we constantly check our hydrants and that we don't have dry ones, so to speak. And they're
Well,
maintained.
But prior to me coming there, we didn't have an inventory. We have an inventory now. We know how many hydrants we have out in the distribution system. And we also know from now on, we also have an indication of the types. We have been, well, since I've been here, and I don't know, maybe even longer than that, obviously, we've been trying to be consistent with replacing all our hydrants that are either Kennedy's or US Steel or somebody or others, made them all Mueller's. And so that they're all consistent, so they're all functionally the same thing, so that they can be repaired with the same kits, the same way. So, little by little.
For my water thing coming up in another week or two, I'd like to have a record of all that. from-
Sure.
But anyway, so what's going on here is this is the education part of what our frustrations with the other two districts.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the water first, and if you guys are welcome to help me out with it. The next is going to be the sewer issues, age, how much they're investing back into it, the water leakage, all of it. Okay. And the next is basically putting the numbers together of why they're incompetent in making sure that they're not taking care of their utility.
Well, it wasn't by accident that I gave you this stuff from the AWWA, because you all saw it. Infrastructure is the primary thing. Whether you're doing water and sewer, that's the buzzword for now everywhere, because you need to replace it. In our system, you got to remember, is from 67 on, not from 1921, 1930 or whatever, because our system, this is the point I'm trying to raise, is because our Achilles heel is in East Berlin, because it's the same vintage as Worthington and Kensington's. And
Absolutely.
they definitely need to do something, and we definitely need to do something there as well.
Well,
Okay.
what's really going to catch us here
So
is,
pretty much, it's like, I got that written down in capital letters. Better not be dry if needed to back up your statements in front of the council when you go to them.
right,
Correct? That's just the main subject.
by him coming up with a system
Then we know.
that they're all been checked, let's say over a 3 or 5 year period, chances are those hydrants are going to be in good enough shape to
That
when
it won't, that won't occur.
that I would think. I'm not a
Yeah,
hydrant
We
expert.
always pick up one or two that has a little bit of a problem. If we do, we can go back. They sell kits, so you can do some of the.
But you
valve.
flush them out every year.
We try to flush them out every year, only on the years that have been dry. We are very careful then, because we can't do it. But we also try to do it in the spring. Unlike some utilities, we don't do it in the
Didn't
summer.
Kensington do
We
it in the
don't-
summer?
Yeah, they wanted to do it in July, and then they told me that they were doing it in July regularly. Well, they're not. Their own notices say that they don't. So
Well, the
anyway, that's a stuff.
So if you guys want to help out, this is going to be audience of the citizens. So, but I want it on the record on what's going on. These are all things that we dig up. And the frustration that their comment is, when you question them, they say, is this old stuff that you're digging up, or is it something new? Like, why are you even dealing with the past? The thousands and millions of dollars that we lost, that's old news, but it's still happening now. And that's what the 2,900 people get to pay for, this $2.4 million. They're not paying any of it.
Okay,
Okay,
Well,
anything else with that?
Well, you stole a page out of my book. Thank you.
I got it from you. What are you talking about?
Glad you're sharing.
Well, I
Didn't you see-
see in that letter
What
that
letter?
came out.
Oh,
that
for
you
the
put in
governor?
the email that my name was
Yes,
blared out, so.
and I didn't do it.
Tom, you didn't see it actually at the bottom of that motion you just made to have this discussion on the hydrants was your name?
Well, it was interesting, Tom, that they actually quoted you on that, which
Yeah.
is funny to me because that means somebody was pretty much listening. And read the
Well, you
minutes.
know what they were doing, they were
But I have to
taking
tell you-
off the minutes of our meeting.
Yeah, but I have to tell you
They had
something.
copies. of it.
More interesting is because not too many people know what WUC means, Water Utility Coordinating Committee. And they took an application I submitted back in 2012 to the State Health Department and the handwritten, because it had to be under a certain time frame. So I sent it to them, had it scanned in and sent in, and yet a copy of it appeared in that email,
Yeah, but,
which didn't mean anything as far as I can tell, but I don't know what the point was.
So where did that end up and how did it end up? Because you were supposed to, you said, guys, don't worry about this, I'll take care of that.
Well,
it's
I'm
being
asking the health department and I'm asking the Pura to get back to me and let me know what they, okay,
Okay,
so the
okay.
letter's anonymous, but
Okay.
I'm not anonymous. I mean, they owe me something because they owe me, tell me, are you gonna do something about it? Or you don't have the authority to do something?
And that's
You
what we
need
were
to respond to
discussing
me.
before.
What was this in response? There was a lot of things.
That's the one that's on 4.7 on tonight's agenda.
Right.
Yeah, that was the issue of the letter that. was-
I understand about the letter, but that had to do with because of me running and what was stated on that.
Well, that's another factor, is that
There's a lot of items
they
in
didn't
that letter we
separate the
discussed.
issue that what I said at certain times was a Worthington Fire District resident, not a Berlin Water Control. Every time during the pandemic, when I was on the phone and when they were having it, I made it very clear that I was speaking as a Worthington resident because I had to give my address as well,
Right.
not as a Berlin Water Control. And my neighbor was on there, Sabi Sanye was on there as well. And the point of it is, they couldn't answer specific questions. It's to this date, they still don't know how many hours they spend on a monthly basis for the commissioners. To do what? To do
Well,
what?
Okay,
Can we go on?
can we go
Yes,
on?
yes.
We got
We got
whole
two,
business.
we got two short ones, unless you got anything else to add. Is that it on that?
That's
No, okay, on old
Deming
business,
Road
5.1 Deming Road project. Deming Road is, remember, Nickerson is our contractor, DPC is the engineer, seems to be working out pretty good. But primarily there's some mobilization, they did some tree cutting, they did some water identification for the mains and so forth. They're doing a lot of permitting, during permitting, for instance, an upgrade on the power cut with Eversource. And they're also doing other permittings that's required. So not a lot of activity, but a lot of materials being ordered at this point in time. So it's coming in and it's being approved. We have a process in place now where Nickerson sends it to our DPC. DPC sends it to me. I send a copy to MDC, get their approval. They send it back to me. And then I send it to Kevin for actual financial payment. So it's been working out. It's a little bit of a trailer, but anyway, it's still working pretty well. So far, so good. Anyway, water main project. Effectively, I think I mentioned this last time, it's done. We're submitting one more payment for this July. There may be only one little payment left at in August, apparently, which would include the retainage, which is the last item that gets usually paid for, and maybe a few extra dollars to go along with that. But essentially, it's done. We're completed. We're happy with that, and we're pretty much in place now and all set to go.
Staying at 1.4, 1.8.
Well, that's the part I don't know. It'll be pretty much close to what the budget has. A little less actually, because there was some savings in the consultant. And then what was it? And then the biggest thing, which I was concerned with, is that we're ready to go with the connections with the DADIO. So the DADIO is actually, they're meeting out there tomorrow to look at where the connections are. We left them an 8-inch line so that they interconnect to the buildings. They're going to be building 5 buildings there with a clubhouse, as I said, with a hotel bank or a bank, medical building, and then a gas station with Dunkin' Donuts. So that project's gonna go. And then,
Another Dunkin'
the,
Donuts?
yeah, and then ABC, there's a project going there. That's been a little bit delayed because of some issues with some easements, but nonetheless, it looks like it's gonna go forward too. That's about another 76 units.
Oh,
So we've got quite a few places that are going, and just this afternoon, Mr. Rustler from Berlin Estates reached out to me that he's finishing off his projects, and he's got one more. He's got some, what do you call it, their condos that are going up. So that'll be the last project over at Beckley Farms.
What, can I make one last?
Sure.
Before we adjourn? Any project that the other two districts do, the town of Berlin has got to cover it. Be
Yeah.
aware of that. In other words, if they borrow money to do a project,
We underwrite it.
the town of Berlin underwrites it.
why?
Good question, because
That's
they're
the thing,
supposed to be
right.
on their own.
Why
Yeah.
do we?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Was
That's
that
a
part
question
of,
that's gonna
Do-
be
Do you
answered.
just automatically
was
agree
that part
and
of some
say, hey,
testimony or?
Pardon
No,
me?
I don't
Was that
agree to
some
anything.
testimony or are you reading out of the
No.
documentation that
It's
they
in,
are?
I showed him the book. I showed him basically.
So you're reading
it-
out of what their justification is, or actually they're put
I'm
together
raising it for a
In-
question that we're gonna need to get a
Right.
straight answer.
In our
from
budget,
them,
in our
No,
budget,
from our town attorney.
our town attorney.
yeah, in our budget, it basically says that there's a section in there for, I forget what they call it, for allotted fees or something that we basically, if they default. let's
Yeah,
see,
that's the word.
Well,
yeah, we were looking at
well,
that a
Worthington
couple
has
years
about
ago.
$350,000 still outstanding, and then Kensington has 800,000. If they default in any way, fashion, or other,
It says in the contract that we're liable.
not a contract. It's in the it's in our budget.
Our budget or their budget?
In our budget,
why did we put such a thing in the budget? May I
you'd have to
ask?
ask the finance director. I really don't know.
I mean,
I guess there's an obligation of the town. I don't really know.
that's why,
I
like
don't.
I said in the beginning, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor, aye.
This town.
Contrary minds. That subject matter was brought up and exactly where you started to say, where you started to say. But even then, we didn't know, but we have approved, you have made some overture to try and get an answer out of that for you, and that has not been answered correctly, or it hasn't been answered at all.
It hasn't been answered at all, but it's gonna be one of my questions in about the water.
In a very forceful way.
I
Well,
don't.
this whole thing, I'm telling you right now, the crap's gonna hit the fan. Because the data that's coming out is all the stuff that they've been hiding about the Department of Health. The whole back end corner over there has not been flushed out properly. You've got people that could get Legionnaire's disease very easily. And it's been that way for years.
Where is this?
He's talking about Worthington.
No, I'm talking about Webster Heights.
Webster
Yeah,
Heights.
it's Worthington.